Okay, I'm going to weigh in here on the subject of gender identity, and the whole transgender thing that we're hearing so much about these days. And I want to come at it from an angle that you may not have heard before, but I think this will provide a lot of clarity to what's going on. So, really, what I want to talk about is aesthetics and the use of language. So, we have nouns and we have pronouns, but let's look at nouns in particular. I've talked about language esoterically before, about the non-duality behind the duality and all that. We're not going to go into that kind of depth in this video. Nouns, practically speaking, point to person, place, or thing. So outside my window is a tree. It's a tree. I can identify it as a tree. I can think of it as the leaves and the bark and the roots in the ground, separate from the soil in the ground. That's a practical distinction. It's physically identifiable. This is a mug, noun, mug, surrounded by air, right? Both nouns. I can think about what it's made of, you know. It's possible that this isn't a mug. It's possible that this is actually a really sophisticated form of paper craft, and that I could actually take it and squash it like a piece of paper, right? Because there are some really elaborate paper crafts out there, but it's not. It's actually a mug made of what mugs are made of, right? Where am I going with this, right? So I could take an apple and I could make it appear like an orange with a mixture of arts and crafts. I'm pretty sure I could fool you into thinking, if with enough time and practice with arts and crafts, I could fool you into thinking that this apple was actually an orange. I could maybe even spray it with something so it smelled like an orange. And to all appearance, sitting there on the table, it's an orange until you take a bite out of it and you get a big surprise. It's not an orange, it's an apple. An apple that has been painted, and it would be awful, wouldn't it? So this is a loose analogy to where I'm going with this. A person, a man, let's say, can attempt to change the aesthetics of his body so that he appears like a woman. Is there any kind of fundamental change that has happened here? No. He's still a man. He still has the XY chromosome. He still has the penis. He still has the excess testosterone that a woman doesn't have. He still grows a beard if he doesn't keep shaving it off or get some kind of treatment for it. So he's changed the aesthetics. Now, yeah, you could have a sex change operation. You could have another operation on your face so that you don't grow hair anymore. You could take hormones so that you grow breasts. But those are still aesthetic changes. You can't actually change the XY chromosome, which is the thing that determined your sexual attributes. Not just your sexual attributes, it determined everything about your body. It determined your masculinity, the thing that is vastly different from femininity, the thing that defines our roles in life, something that was much more apparent back in the prehistoric era, when men did different things from women and things weren't so confused. That's a whole other topic. But anyway, so you can make aesthetic changes, even ones that are more than skin deep, but they are still aesthetic changes. And you can look at yourself and you can have a sex change operation. You can look at what's down there and you can go, it's a vagina. It's what I've always wanted. But aren't you just fooling yourself in a way that, when a woman uses the aesthetics of makeup and how she dresses and all the rest of it, and even her poise and how she moves, all of those things are ways of enriching what's already there. Because a woman is naturally beautiful, right? So aesthetics are a way of making that beauty more beautiful. And when a man like myself looks at a woman who's taking care of herself, and I might have the reaction, whoa, look at that. And I feel attracted. In part, I know that the mind is being fooled, right? That the lipstick isn't real, that the dramatic eyes aren't real. And yet I enjoy being fooled in that way, but it is a form of illusion, a form of magic. This is why we use the word bewitch when we think about how a female seduces a man. You've been bewitched. You can read all about this stuff if you read occult literature. Very interesting study. But, and this is why the word magic is used for illusion. So when a transgender person looks down and there's no penis there anymore and there's a vagina, to some extent he has to know that's an illusion, because it's not really a vagina, it just looks like one. I mean, there's no actual ovaries back there. That's why a vagina is shaped the way it is, so that it can receive a penis and grow a baby, right? That can't happen because you're not a woman. I mean, nobody's trying to be offensive here. Well, I know some people maybe are, but I'm not trying to be offensive here. Language is meaningful. That tree out there in my garden, I don't get to look at that and say, that's a tiger. That's just stupid. So this whole thing about transgender, I get that people are suffering. I really do. I don't know what to do about that. But what really disturbs me about it is that there's an element of this community, this transgender community, that is demanding that the whole world accept their view of reality, their hijacking of language to mean something other than it means, right? Because really, it's just aesthetics. That's all it is. And people who use language correctly want to use it to point to something real, not just something that is an aesthetic illusion. Do you see what I'm saying? This matters especially in areas like medicine. If you're transgender, it's not going to help you to go to the doctor and insist that you're a woman when you're a man, and vice versa. Because sometimes the treatments differ. Because your bodies, the male physique and the female physique are different. And by physique, well, I'm using the wrong word. Physique really is the outer appearance. The male body and the female body are different, fundamentally. So that doesn't help you in any way. And it disturbs me that people are being fined and losing their jobs because they're using the wrong nouns or just the wrong pronouns to say the word his instead of hers. The rest of us, we understand how language is used, and it's just being hijacked by a community of people who are basically becoming bullies. And it seems to be now that university kids, judging by the interviews that I've seen on the internet, on YouTube, they're actually afraid to say anything about it. Whoops. They're afraid to say anything about it. It's like, the interviewer thrusts a microphone in a college student's face and says, "What if I told you I was a woman?" And the interviewee says, "I would say good for you." And then he says, "What if I told you I was Chinese?" And you see the hesitation. But they say, "Good for you." What if I told you I was 5'2" when he's obviously 6'2"? I would say that I would not necessarily believe that, but I would not want to prevent you from believing that. I would say good for you. Do you see how crazy this is getting? We seem to have now young people who are totally afraid to simply point out what is true and untrue about reality. Why? Where's everybody's courage gone? And it seems to have disappeared because these things are now being legislated about. This is some real 1984 stuff here. Transgenders are becoming the bullies. And it almost seems that they love that victimization, that they can play upon that victimization side of things. In one interview, I actually saw that there was a transgender person had decided that if you call me her when I want to be a him, you're attacking me. So the interviewer said, so I've committed a crime. And she goes, no, I didn't say that. But if I attack you, that's a crime. That has to be a crime. No, I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth. They want this big, I'm sorry, but if somebody uses the wrong pronoun, it's not an attack. It's not a physical assault. I mean, to give you an example, what's going on here is we have a community of people who are demanding that the rest of the world view reality in the way that they view reality. You don't get to dictate that to people. To use an example from my personal experience, I was once a Christian. When I changed my view of reality and stepped away from that, some people who were Christian friends of mine demanded that I never say that Jesus didn't die on the cross and rise again, demanded that my view of reality matched theirs, and if it didn't, then they would have nothing more to do with me, and they had nothing more to do with me. They said, you will see reality the way I see it, or else. And the transgender community, at least an element of it, is doing the same thing. I don't see reality the way you see reality, and it's not a crime, and it's not intended to abuse you in any way. I just think you are deluded. I think, it's crazy to take a perfectly healthy male body or female and go Frankenstein on it. Because that's really what's going on. It's perfect just as it is, and you want to chop it up and change it because you have a neurosis. Prove to me that it's not a neurosis. Prove to me that you were genetically born as some kind of female identity in a male body. Because there's no science that I know of to back that up, and I've looked. So, there was one person that I know of who is into drag queens. This woman I know that's into drag queens, and she posted a picture from this drag queen stage show and said as a comment, "Tell me that's not a woman." And my thought was, okay, take off all the makeup, take off all his clothes, take a photograph of him. Now look at yourself saying the words, "Tell me that's not a woman." Don't get mesmerized by aesthetics. Aesthetics is magic, illusion. There's a reality underneath aesthetics, and that is what our nouns all point to. That is the correct use of language. There's a transgender person on my radar on YouTube called Kim Justice. He's a retro game reviewer, and he used to just post. I used to never know what he looked like. He used to post videos where you just saw the video game that he was reviewing on the screen, and you didn't see his face, just heard his voice. And he sounded like an effeminate man, and that's absolutely fine. But that's the picture of him I had in my head, a man who is effeminate. It was a male voice. But now he makes videos of himself where you can see him, and he's got long hair, makeup, and a dress. And I imagine he wants to be referred to as a woman, but he's not a woman. He's just a man who made himself look like a woman. And you heard me referring to him as he. I did not do that to be offensive. I did it because that's my view of reality, and he doesn't get to impose his view of reality on me. That's all that's going on here. There's really no need to be offended. I'm not offended by Christians who want to believe in their God. They shouldn't be offended by me who wants to disbelieve in their God. And I do have healthy relationships with other Christians, and there is a respect of that difference. But it seems now we're going into territory now in the world where there's no respect for difference of opinion. If you use the wrong pronoun, we'll fine you. You'll lose your job. This is really bad direction for society to take. It's really bad. And the transgender community are going to be seen as the bullies. This is all gonna backfire, I think. But anyway, all I'm arguing for, get offended if you want, all I'm arguing for is a correct use of language based on what things actually are, not what they appear to be. That's it. So, we'll see how this goes down. Comment below, please.